Hello everyone, John from Gaming in the Wild here with an Ark Raiders video for you today. And look, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Despite being pretty selective in what I like and what I talk about on this channel, I'm also an absolute hype jackal. I have a terrible weakness for high OpenCritic scores, and I suffer from chronic curiosity and FOMO, which I know a lot of you can relate to. And the hype around Ark Raiders reached a certain frequency of enthusiastic chatter in the video game scene that made my ears prick right up. So to my own surprise, I dived into Ark Raiders this week. Now, Ark Raiders is a third-person multiplayer sci-fi extraction adventure. Absolutely not my kind of usual thing, but it hit an OpenCritic 93, making it the highest scored multiplayer shooter ever featured on OpenCritic, and it's had 300k concurrent Steam players at peak times, and that number does not include Xbox Series or PS5 players, all of whom are cross-playing at the same time. So it's just been a scorching success all round, and it looks poised to become this year's Helldivers 2. And before we get into it, I just want to say, if you're a regular on the channel, you might be understandably surprised to see me covering Ark Raiders at all. I'm not a very extraction shootery kind of guy, but I will let you know why this one made the cut in my review. And if you are new to Gaming in the Wild and found this video through Ark Raiders, be aware that I'm an extreme newcomer to the genre. It's literally the first extraction style game I've ever played, and it's been a very steep learning curve in the handful of hours I've played so far. So I don't claim to be an expert or an authority of any kind. I'm just a new player talking about their experience with the game and the genre, and a hardworking YouTuber trying to make fun stuff for you to watch, so, you know, be normal in the comments if you can. That said, Ark Raiders grabbed me in a way that most games of this type just don't. I'm not very interested in sweaty military simulators, but I'm very interested in 80s sci-fi nostalgia, in that Polaroid, VHS, C90 design aesthetic, and Star Wars meets Starfield NASA vibes. And I'm not very interested in headshotting randoms for XP or glory, but I'm very interested in Fallout, Horizon, and Last of Us style journeys, and scavenging my way through highly detailed post-apocalyptic worlds. So Ark Raiders hit a kind of a sweet spot for me. I downloaded it and took a friend along for the ride. Shout out to Kieran, aka Face Cuddle, who's been keeping me alive and carrying the team, and we got in at just the right time. The game is very much in the process of blowing up, it is buzzing with new players, and there's a sense of people learning the ropes together that's kind of wholesome for the most part. I think that's maybe down to the design intent of the opening hours. The devs described this game as an extraction adventure, and I think the word adventure does a lot of heavy lifting there. There's a lot more to this game than taking down everyone you see. It's about exploring, salvaging, scrapping, and escaping to go below, level up, unlock new areas, craft better weapons, follow the light story campaign, and then go again. So to set up the scenario of the game a little bit, in Ark Raiders, humanity has been driven underground to a city called Speranza. The surface is no longer safe because of robots called Arks. They come in different styles, like drones with spotlights on patrol around various installations, creepy tiny spiders that jump on you in dark corridors, and rolling kamikaze security bombs, and some more threatening varieties that I won't spoil here. All of these Arks stalk the broken remains of the human cities on the surface for purposes that are unclear at first, but the initial story missions are a breadcrumb trail that I'm still following, so hopefully we'll learn a lot more about what's going on as things progress. And while humanity is safely bunkered in Speranza, the city still needs stuff. It needs electronic components, it needs metal, cloth and copper, electrical wiring, food, books, records, etc. And this is where the raiders come in. Raiders are people that are willing to brave the surface, either alone or in groups of 2 or 3. They get up there and forage as much stuff as they can, then they extract to return below before the last elevator leaves. They're basically armed freelancers who are, in a sense, working together to supply the remnants of humanity with what they need, but they're also in light competition because you can't empty a cache if someone has emptied it first. This leads to an interesting core tension in the game. Everybody wants to avoid the robots. You can stealth past them, avoid their spotlights, or take down lighter units in a few shots. They are just there, they're a fact of life in this world, and if you make noise by opening a cache with a crowbar or accidentally triggering a car alarm, they will be on you quickly. Other players are sometimes in the same region salvaging, and you might find yourself spontaneously teaming up with randoms to take down a bunch of robots, part ways, and get on with your day. But the tension comes in the fact that other players are also a conundrum. They could just be doing their thing, salvaging, exploring, knocking off missions, getting XP and extracting, or they could be, you know, up to some stuff. I will say that in 10 plus surface runs, me and my companion have only encountered a very small handful of human aggressors. But you do have these moments when you come face to face with someone in a dark building or out in a forest somewhere, and you just pause and look at each other, and it's really cool. It's very tense and interesting. So sometimes you pass wordlessly like ships in the night, and you can use proximity chat if you want. You can set an open mic to hear everybody nearby and let everybody nearby hear you, or use a push to speak system. Me and my friend used an open channel within our squad, so we could talk to each other constantly, and a push-to-speak system when other people were near so we could signal that we were coming in peace and so forth. And the fact that there are other crews roaming around makes the game world feel very alive. There is a lot of room for spontaneity. And something that I'm wondering is whether this initial peacefulness within the community is going to last, because it is part of the game's design. In the opening area, which is the outskirts of a city, there is no shortage of things to pick up. We're not competing, so we can walk around the dam, the electricity interchange, the swampy wasteland, the office buildings, and the broken down homes. And in this area, people are just playing the opening missions, they're trying to forage some stuff and just get out with their XP and their equipment to break down and so forth. But in the second area, you're tasked with rescuing a dropship, and there's only one or two that come down in the whole area, and all of the players need them because we're all on the same missions. So I do wonder if scarcity in the game's design is going to start leading to more competitive PvP behavior. The second area is a sand-blasted desert town, half overcome by the landscape, with tight alleyways, townhouses, and a labyrinthine library to explore. And it is worth saying that this game looks beautiful. It's in Unreal Engine 5, the light is gorgeous, the weather effects are gorgeous. When dropships and drones fly over rivers, you can see the spray from their propellers rearing up on the water. So it's a lot of fun just walking around. It has that virtual post-apocalyptic tourism feel to it that made Last of Us and Fallout so effective. The sound design is incredible as well. You can really hear people around you. You can hear the chattering of arcs as they do their patrols. You can hear the footsteps of other players in the area. The footsteps sound different on each material that you're walking over, and it's just very, very carefully put together. When you crack a cache, you really do feel that groan of metal and start looking over your shoulder to see if anyone heard it. And the gameplay is very smooth too. You spawn in on the edge of the map and orientate yourself. You can mark points on the map. The movement feels good. You can be stealthy or you can be sprinting away wildly. The shooting feels natural. There is some level of aim assist that helps out but doesn't feel too interruptive. You can have 2 weapon slots and choose from light, medium or heavy starter weapons. I had a bit of trouble at first with arcs because I was using a light weapon. I changed to heavy and suddenly I was taking them down with a lot more ease. I enjoyed trying to hit weak spots on drones, taking out one engine and seeing them destabilize and drop out of the sky. And once inside a building, there are drawers and lockers for you to salvage from. If you've played Last of Us or Fallout, you'll know exactly what this feels like. There are traps and tripwires and small robots and other players inside these installations, which come in different flavors of difficulty that you can see on the map. If you do get into trouble, you have a shield bar that takes a bit of damage. You can recharge it unless it breaks completely. Then you have a health bar. You can be downed if you run out of shield and health. Other players can revive you. So while this is playable solo, I had a much better time when I started playing with a friend. And as well as salvaging, you will get aims, like repairing a comms tower or finding certain components for someone down below, but you always have that low-level aim of just salvaging. You need salvage to upgrade your guns, upgrade your work desks, upgrade your living space. So you really do want to extract and keep all of your stuff, because if you die up top, you lose everything that you had except for one item that you can put in a secret pocket. There are various extraction points on the map. There are clocks ticking down so you can see how long they will remain usable. So there's a lot of risk and reward in deciding when to extract and when to push a little bit further. When you call the lift, it makes a giant siren noise which will attract attention, so it's best to take cover in case arcs or other players show up. Once inside, you close the doors, you get to extract with the loot and XP that you've won. It is a very satisfying loop that gave me flashbacks to Fallout 4 and Starfield, where sometimes I would just go out looking for weapon mods or materials that I needed. So as well as having an RPG story, those games just had a very satisfying gameplay loop, and that is accentuated here by the multiplayer element. When you go back down to Speranza, it's basically a menu. You don't get to walk around the city, but it is really juicy. You can see city views with lots of people walking around. You can see the interiors of shops and the faces of shopkeepers. So it's like an atmospheric menu, but I did miss being able to walk around even a small space. Like in Helldivers 2, you can walk around the ship and power up and that kind of thing. That does mean that the between bouts section is very menu heavy, and you will find yourself having to acclimatize to wondering where things are because there are menus within menus within menus. So it's functional if a bit cluttered. There are 5 traders that you can visit. Most of their stock is locked behind leveling up. Sometimes they have quests for you. And I think that my biggest ding on the game is actually in this part of things. Sometimes you might find yourself needing a certain component, like a spring or a specific piece of metal, and you will sometimes find those things lying around in the overworld, but more often than not, you'll have to recycle more complex machinery to get the innards. To do so, you have to enter the item menu, then enter a sub-menu to see what components will be yielded if you recycle it. And if you've got 60 items and you just need one piece of electrical wire, it's quite laborious. I wish that the recycling and crafting could be refined somehow, with like marking ingredients a little bit better, or establishing recipes that would just automatically recycle unwanted junk. It is worth saying that I've only played 3 hours, so maybe that's in my future as I upgrade my crafting tables and so forth, but it is laborious at the beginning of the game at least. But overall, I've had a very exciting time with Arc Raiders. The extraction adventure formula means that even as someone who is not familiar with extraction shooter gameplay or PvPvE gameplay, I found it to just be very very, very compelling. I love creeping across the surface of this planet, exploring all of the different areas, which are quite vast and interestingly designed. I've really enjoyed the Fallout meets Last of Us meets Starfield kind of collectathon, wandering, exploration. I've enjoyed the combat bouts and having these happenstance encounters with players that you end up being suspicious of and then working with. I've enjoyed the tense standoffs where you're standing in an elevator loaded down with goodies and there are a bunch of players around you. All of your guns are drawn, you could shoot each other and exploit each other, but there's a moment where you just don't, and it's kind of beautiful. I think that maybe this game manages to get the Bethesda game loop that we all love so much, but when Fallout 76 was empty and janky and daunting, this game has the juice. Each run has a story of its own, it has emergent gameplay and an interesting social element. I'm very curious to see how it will progress. There is definitely a grind here that you can see. There is in-game currencies that feel a bit grubby, like you can spend 5, 7, 10, 20, 50 pounds on these tokens to buy new outfits and cosmetics and so forth. Most of that stuff can be earned through persistent gameplay, even if it takes a really long time. I will also say there has been some debate about the use of AI in this game, but you can use these AI-generated voices so that as you speak, the people around you will hear an AI voice of a different kind. There is a debate raging around the ethics of that, which I'm not going to get into here. It's a complex conversation that could be a video all of its own. One upside that I've heard people mention is that female players can affect a male voice and not get, bullied or whatever. Not that the community around this game is prone to that kind of horrible Gamergate nonsense so far. It seems quite cozy and wholesome in there, and I really hope it stays that way because I'm having a good time with it. So for now, that's my take on Ark Raiders. Speaking of lovely gaming communities, there is a beautiful community around gaming in the wild. There is a Discord that patrons can join. It only costs $1 a month to get in the Discord tier. And then if you like what you see and you want to support me more, there are $3, $5, and $10 tiers with bonus podcast episodes, bonus behind the scenes content creation, blogs, and all of that kind of thing. There is a really big couple of months coming up because we always have a massive Game of the Year vote within the community where people vote in a form and give comments about the games that they loved the most this year. I then compile all the best comments, compile all of the votes, and then read out a chart, not only with the games that people have voted for, but with their thoughts about them too. I will turn that into a podcast and a video, so if you would like to be a part of it, have your voice heard, help affect the games of the year that the Gaming in the Wild patron vote has on it, then hop in from $1 a month. I will put a link on the screen now. There's a link in the show notes. Thanks very much to boss tier patrons Shy Guy, King Champ, Nate, Keris, and Susanna Maria. And with that, I'm out. See you on the next one.